city agreed to forego revenue from Goldman Sachs if the World Trade Center didn't move along.
Why did you just discover this? This is a public document. It was out when we made the agreement. It was part of the agreement back then, and I don't understand why the subject's coming up now.
Do you still think it was a good idea?
I think it was probably the only way. Well, let me rephrase that. The part that Governor Pataki negotiated, I don't know because we didn't do that part. The part that we have to do, we will deliver on time, and there should not be a penalty. I think Goldman will agree to that. We committed to have security for the Lower Manhattan in place by the end of 2009. We are on schedule to do that, and I don't see any reason why it won't be completed on time. It's not all that common to agree to have penalties in some of these deals. On the other hand, if you remember back then, your paper and every other paper was screaming bloody murder that we had to get Lower Manhattan going. And had Goldman chose to move, it would have been disastrous for Lower Manhattan. It certainly would have looked at that time that it would have been in retrospect. I think that's probably also true that it would have been. And Goldman had a credible threat. They had a building right across the river. I would suggest you go down, look out, probably could look out the offices, your offices, and you'll see that the top half of that building is still today empty. Goldman could have moved outside of this city very easily, and we wanted them to show the way. I don't know about all the negotiations, the things that the state promised, but Pataki at that time was there, and he had to make decisions, and my recollection is that I thought those decisions were probably, I might have been done different things, but he was the governor, and it's a Port Authority property. And I think it also goes to show how important it was then and still is to get Lower Manhattan going. And the fact that the Port Authority is late in delivering the things that they had promised to do, which was the state's part of it, shows what a terrible idea it would be to turn over Moynihan to the Port Authority. They can't do what they can do, what they're supposed to do, and I've got to get the World Trade Center Memorial going. That's my highest priority because I'm chairman of the board of the foundation to raise $350 million privately with the understanding that this would get built, and it would get built as expeditiously as possible. And we'll do everything we can to help the Port Authority, but they clearly have an awful lot on their plate. Let me also point out that my recollection is when we negotiated this deal, it was before the agreements that were all made with Silverstein, who had his own interest. If you remember, he was involved in suits on the insurance companies. The subsequent agreements to what would be built when came after this, and hopefully Goldman and everybody else will understand that whether it was the Pataki administration, the Spitzer administration, or the Patterson administration, they're doing what they can. I don't think anybody anticipated after the Pataki administration, the next administration coming in and basically stopping everything for a year and a quarter, year and a half, while they, a year and a quarter I guess it was, while they took a fresh look at everything. During that time, costs escalated and some time was lost. Nobody anticipated the administration coming after Pataki to last for only a little over a year, and then have another administration which naturally wants to come in and see what obligations they have and how they want to deal with it. But the part that the city is responsible for, the security, we believe we are on schedule and will complete it in the time that was committed to, and that there would be no penalty because of that. And the Port Authority has to focus on getting done. They've got to weigh it. It's just a business expense. They've got to weigh whether or not they've got to pay this money to Goldman or increase their cost to do things faster. And I'm not a member of the Port Authority board, not the director or the chairman, and I can't weigh in on that. Yes, Ms.